I get points.
You get points. You always get points. I should have believed you. I don't know how I did not.
All right.
Ridiculous.
If you're scoring this at home.
Yeah, well, now you know. Hey, Chad.
Hey, Megan. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. I got to tell you this story.
Tell me.
Last night,
Yeah.
Olivia's birthday's coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. As a musical fan, you'll appreciate
Yes,
this.
of course.
Her birthday's coming up. We're finishing dinner. She says, one more day till my birthday. To which I start singing One Day More from Les Mis. She says, what is that? I'm like, I failed you.
You failed.
Let me go. Like, we got to watch this.
Yeah.
And so we go and watch on YouTube, and the One Day More from the Anne Hathaway movie comes up.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, it's recommended the Anne Hathaway song at the beginning. I can't remember the name of it, but I Dreamed a Dream, I think. Yeah. And so Olivia's over and thing, and I'm just like crying over on the couch. She said, Dad, why are you crying? I'm like, what? Did you just watch this thing?
It's not A Dream to Dream. That's a boy sings that song. I think. I'm almost positive.
Okay.
I have to know now.
Okay. Well, anyway, the point was I'd forgotten how good Anne Hathaway was in that film. Just gut-wrenching.
So good. So good.
What did you find?
It is A Dream to Dream. You're right. I was wrong. There's a couple that she sings, but
let's get to.
Let's
too important to keep
very
waiting.
important. Very important.
I'm very excited that Dr. Tom Caven has agreed to be with us today. Welcome.
Yay, Dr.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Megan. Glad to be here with you.
Glad to have you join us. A beloved one of many in our congregation. The voice of reason and help in times of difficulty, but we are so glad to have you here today with us.
It's great to be here.
So we usually start. Megan introduced this, but basically, give us your life story in 2 minutes.
Okay. I'm a career Austinite.
Okay.
I was raised with the expectation I would be a lawyer, like most of the lawyers in my family, and I went to college with that expectation. And then a biology class I took really challenged me and just kind of turned me on in some ways, and I decided to pursue a career in medicine. I did that, was really planning on being a small-town doctor. I chose family medicine kind of in my youth as what I now see as a youthful indiscretion. But was planning on being in a small town, but found my way back to Austin. It just was a powerful draw. Mm-hmm. Practiced for a long time, and then I kind of got into administrative medicine and still done that. My family has a pretty substantial size ranch out in the hill country that has been kind of something we've always done and gone to. But I've been spending more time out there the last couple of years trying to figure out what we're going to do with it and try to really make it. I'm really trying to lean into the stewardship of something like that.
Sure.
With the clear understanding it's going to be there after I'm gone and after my kids are gone, and what can it be that my time with it would have made it better.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are y'all running any animals out there? Or?
We have had cattle. We've got them off right now, letting the land recover.
Uh-huh.
We're getting, this is more than you want to know, but we're getting ready to do what's called a regenerative ranching program, where you confine the cattle to a small space and then move them every few days.
Okay.
Don't let them back.
Yeah,
and what you're doing is you're fertilizing that ground, and it's more of a soil play than just a straight cattle play. So you're not doing as many cattle as you would if you were just trying to, get all the money out of the cattle you could.
Megan will attest to this. This is absolutely not more.
No,
than
it's
I want to know.
exactly what he wants to know.
Yeah. So my family has my grandmother has a ranch up in Dublin, Texas.
Yeah.
You got about 100 acres out there that her parents built in the 20s.
Oh, it's awesome.
Megan's got a aunt that lives
Yes.
up in Wyoming. It's my
Yes.
second wife, probably.
Yep.
That
Love
Should tell
Wyoming.
people that.
she,
She's got a ranch outside of Riverton, Wyoming, and has had lots of various animals on over the years. But Mom and I go every summer for a week, and we do projects.
Yeah.
And I am not very good at any of the projects, but I sure do try hard.
I'm
And
sure you
I
do.
don't believe
there's
that.
it's an interesting adventure.
It's kind
but
of soul restoring. Isn't
Yes,
it?
it absolutely is, and the air smells so good out there, and we go for hikes in the mountains,
Yeah.
and
And she sends me these beautiful
yes,
pictures.
there's lots of beautiful pictures, but it's just there's something really powerful, I think, about being outside of the city and being around nature and experiencing that on a regular basis that changes the makeup of your body, and it changes your outlook and all those things. So yeah, we really believe in that.
One of the people we took out there, just seeking ideas of what to do with it, runs a foundation called Families in Nature, and they tend to take families out for camping, and they put together people from different social strata that normally wouldn't be hanging out necessarily. They kind of deliberately do this.
Yeah.
So they have like a weekend to get to know each other. But she was talking about, we took a long hike through it, and she wanted to bring out one of her people that does what's called forest bathing.
Okay.
You remember this? It's basically a guided meditation in the
cool.
woods
Yeah.
that somebody does that is kind of like trained in it.
Yeah, that would be very cool.
So
I love that
that's
idea.
one of the things we're trying to work up to.
Tom, what was it about medicine? You said you took this biology class, but what was it, do you think, that about medicine specifically that kind of drew you to that?
That's a good question, Megan. I think it was the science really kind of fascinated me. How everything works, how the bodily systems fit together, how they break down when they break down.
Yeah.
And it was a people business. It was really a chance to connect with people in a whole different way, and you learn about people in illness in ways you don't. You see extreme bravery.
Yeah.
People that find out things about themselves or about their spouse and loved ones that they never would have known otherwise.
Yeah.
And then you see things of, less, it just sort of brings out the true nature of what people are. And it's an opportunity to kind of like strengthen them when they need it. So I loved that. I got a lot out of the practice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have a couple of doctors in my family, and I think they are by nature very curious people. Like how, like you said, like how the things work together, like figuring out problems, like all that kind of stuff. My dad's a veterinarian, and I have an uncle who's a pediatrician, and I have a cousin who's a pediatrician. And I think for them, it is a lot about the biology and the nature of things, but also very much about caring for people and about doing the best they can to help children grow up and help babies grow up and all those sorts of things. And so I think that's really obviously a helpful field, but also just an interesting way to spend your life in caring for people, but also being curious about life.
I get it. And your first statement about the curiosity, there's just always so much, ability to do things that weren't possible, 15, 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
I had to do a reflection to start a meeting last night for a bunch of doctors. And I specifically kind of brought to them the idea of the fact that we've got heart transplants here in Austin now that that weren't possible during my lifetime at least, and they were still pretty unusual even when I started my career. And now we're able to do them for adults and children. The reflection, I kind of wove in this song that Bonnie Raitt won her Song of the Year.
I just listened to it the other night.
Yeah.
It is beautiful.
It is a great song.
Oh my gosh.
I'd commend it to all our listeners. It's called Just Like That. And it's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
True story. That Bonnie just heard on TV and was so inspired she wrote this song, and it's just a mark of her craft.
Absolutely.
That she was able to write such a beautiful song. but it's kind of about a heart transplant. But it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, it's about grief and about love and about all those good things. That's a good segue into the other thing we know Dr. Caven for, which is your music, your beautiful music, and we're looking forward to having you all come. Hopefully the week after.
That's right, April
Easter.
16th.
Yeah,
we're probably going to play a few minutes before the service,
Yeah.
and then we're going to play during the service. And we're
it's
still
such a
working that
fun thing to do right after Easter. Such a kind of a deep breath after the season of Lent. But tell us how you got kind of inspired by music and how you started playing.
Oh, I appreciate that question. I've just always loved music. I still remember being in elementary school and the teacher lending me a guitar for a minute and teaching me one chord and just thinking, this just like opened something up inside me. I couldn't play anything. I had one chord. I guess there are one chord songs, but I didn't know them in those days. So it was something I always wanted. And I'll be honest with you, I really didn't. I had a real hunger to do it, but couldn't really. It took me a real long time to learn how to play. I could learn the chords, but I couldn't get all the way through a song for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it's something I wanted, but really had to scrap for, makes it probably mean more to me. About 20 years ago, the church I was going to then had a sock hop. And they put this one guy in charge to try to recruit people to come join this sock hop. And we were playing all oldies, 50s songs, stuff like that. We put together this band. It was just supposed to be for one night. But I thought, this is just fantastic. And that kind of started a whole thing of learning to play with other people, which is a whole nother skill set. But you have to be able to kind of like put what you're playing kind of on the back burner and open up to listen to somebody else. And that's hard to do. You've got to be confident enough with what you're playing that you can focus on somebody else's stuff.
I remember, so I play very little and not well, and it's mostly just at home. I find it therapeutic, basically.
Oh, absolutely,
it's just
it is.
like sitting, and playing a song or whatever. But the one time some friends went over to some friend's house, and there was a drummer, and it's the only time ever I had played with somebody else playing drums. And the only time since, because I was just completely lost. Like this beat and like trying, and it's way more difficult.
It's really tricky.
Than people.
Really tricky.
Yeah. So it's just such an overpowering. That's such an overpowering sound. And you're absolutely right. Like you have to know what you're doing. All my muscle memory, so you can. But you've got a band, Wild Margot. When I saw him play.
You did. You came out to Jester King.
Great venue to see them, and
with Ashley and
the kiddos.
Kids,
when did y'all join? When did that band form?
I think the core of that group's been together for 10 years or so. Cool. And that kind of gets us to the point where we sort of know where each other's going a lot of the time, and can sort of like cede the floor to somebody else for a few minutes and kind of hold down the space. And, we've written some songs together. Some of it's, pretty, honestly, pretty silly. Most of the stuff I write, and I actually went to a songwriter deal in Nashville about 8 years ago. A guy named Daryl Scott, who's written some great stuff. Dixie Chicks made a hit out of one of his songs. Written some great songs.
Okay.
And I'd heard him on the radio, and he was talking about teaching people to write from, like their innermost thoughts and stuff like that. And I thought, I need that. So I went there, and it was a really good experience. He was almost like a therapist, pushing some of these people really hard, really
scary.
hard.
Seems a little scary.
It was a little scary. But honestly, I kind of reverted back to what I do, and I'm sort of a fiction writer.
Okay.
I write songs that are kind of made up scenarios. Like one of them I've written is almost a novelty tune about a guy. It's a country song about a guy that buys a like a self-driving truck, artificial intelligence,
Okay.
and it's a smart truck.
Yeah.
And actually, smart truck's so smart it decides it doesn't like it and drives off, ditches it. Nobody's really thought about that. Like ever since cars came out, you decide. How do you like the performance? How do you like the looks of it? How does it ride? And you're going to get these smart vehicles are going to decide how do they like your performance, how they like your looks.
Yeah.
And so this is one that turns out sad. But it was, a natural country song where, the guy's lamenting he get left behind.
Yeah.
I love that.
Of course.
I'm really drawn to like old folk music.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's for that reason. I mean,
storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling.
Yeah.
It's like the Woody Guthrie is a big. I mean, there's a Woody Guthrie tattoo.
I love that.
But that's kind of like the fisherman blues, and just this telling a story of it's very kind of concise. This is the event. This is the setting. It's almost like improv, in a way. Feels like that, and so
I love those old songs. I mean, I think one of the songs that I'm going to try to get us to learn to do in church. I just kind of came across a week or two ago. I'd never heard it before. But it's like a 70-year-old June Carter Cash song.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
And it's strictly religious. I mean, she's singing kind of from the heart of somebody looking for Jesus.
Ashley just got me for my birthday an old vinyl of the Bristol sessions where the Carter family was discovered. It's
Carter family. I mean, that's just a whole nother epic story.
Yeah.
And, that kind of went down to Mexico and broadcast. Where you could just crank up the power and they just went all through the Midwest.
Did you see the Ken Burns country music documentary?
A lot of it, yeah.
It's so good. Yeah.
It was really good. Ken does a great
He's so good.
Yeah,
he makes
sure.
awesome stuff. Tom, I'm wondering, so I worked in the hospital for my internship for seminary at Children's in Dallas.
Oh, good.
And I was there for almost a year on the cancer floor. That's where I spent all my time with the bald kids and had a great time with them. But one of the things that we did a lot of is we had a music therapist that would come in and do music with the kids. And so I wonder, kind of as you have these two parts of your life, how do you find that the music that you do or the music that you listen to is therapeutic, and kind of vice versa, that, medicine can
Well, I mean, as I told you before we recorded, that my wife lost an uncle who'd been very sick, just died this morning.
Yeah.
And I also related to you that I had one particular song selection I just needed to listen to.
Yeah.
From a great old, again, kind of folk singer, Reverend Gary Davis, sometimes called Blind Gary Davis.
Mm-hmm.
He was somebody that went from being kind of a cigar chomping, Scotch swilling blues singer to being a cigar chomping, Scotch swilling street preacher, and Baptist deacon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So he's somebody that I really draw inspiration from.
Mm-hmm.
So I find music can be really healing for people in the right situation, and I've been talking to Carla Wade about, possibly incorporating that into some of the care ministry that we got here.
That would be very cool. Yeah.
There's a organization here in town called Swan Songs, founded by Christine Albert, who's, I think, been nominated for or won a Grammy. I mean, she's a pretty serious musician.
Yeah.
Started this thing, and what they do is they recruit musicians to go in and play basically house concerts for terminal patients.
Yeah.
And they ask the patients, what kind of music do you like? And they go recruit typically professional musicians. But somehow we lucked into getting invited to go do one of these for a lady at a retirement center.
Yeah.
And we were expecting we
Yeah.
were going to be in her room, and she's probably bedridden.
Yeah,
and, we're
yeah.
just kind of all huddled around the bed.
Yeah.
So we were totally acoustic. Well, we got there, and it was a different situation.
Yeah.
She's got some sort of neurodegenerative situation,
Yeah.
but she was in a wheelchair and she's up and alert and fine. It was
Yeah.
her birthday party.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
everybody at the place was there. There were like 30 of them there, including a woman I used to know from our former church was there, and she was surprised to see me. I was surprised to see her, but so we played a little 45-minute concert for
Yeah.
them.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's very
But
cool.
you know, I find that I knew about this organization.
Yeah.
I've donated to it. A good friend of mine used to work there. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking what I'm trying to pitch is that we do something like that for homebound
Yeah.
parishioners
Yeah.
at UUMC.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't just be me. And I'm going to
Yeah.
recruit one of the singers. I don't know, I've got kind of a stable of people that I'd ask.
Sure.
And let's
Yeah.
come in and let's do 4 or 5 songs
Yeah.
and visit with them for a while.
Yeah.
See how that goes. See if
That's
it's
very cool.
something that takes off.
Yeah, I have known over the years. Part of my ministry is working with our senior adults, and so often they will have dementia or Alzheimer's, but they know every single song they
true.
ever sang in church. They can sing the entirety of it without any music. They'll just like bust out into song, and it amazes me the way that music can be comforting. Even if you don't know what day it is, you don't know your name, you don't know any of your family, but you can still sing those songs, and like how powerful that can
It's
be
true.
for people. Yeah.
True. Lyrics reside in a different part of the brain
Yeah.
than language does.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so it pulls you back
It
to an
does.
emotion
It
that
does.
it's hard to get to otherwise.
Absolutely.
Also, I think singing in a community setting.
Yes.
Like, I think I remember I grew up very conservative Church of Christ Christian, and the sermons and stuff never really resonated with me. I quit going pretty young, as soon as I was able to comprehend what they were preaching about.
Yeah.
But the thing I do kind of miss, and I have very fond memories of, is the music.
Yeah.
And these just old, because there's Church of Christ, there's no instruments in the church. It's
Yeah.
just people's voices.
Yeah.
And like you pull any one of them out, and it's mostly older congregation from rural Texas, and none of, in an individual, they couldn't carry a tune in a bucket.
Yeah.
But you put them all together, and you're like, how this all of a sudden this very beautiful thing. So yeah, I have very fond memories.
I love
of
that.
community singing.
Well, my wife grew up in a Baptist church, and so all these old hymns are like Motown is to me.
Yeah.
And whenever we're out in the country on weekends, I routinely put on Pandora. There's a station called Country Hymns, and it's basically country stars doing these old hymns.
Yeah.
And I'll hear one, I say, do you know this one? She, oh, yeah. She knows them all. She said, we didn't do it like that. I'm saying, I'm sure you
That's
didn't.
it, yeah.
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 But I don't know what made me think of this. It's a little off topic,
That's
but
all right.
I want to compliment you and Pastor Heather that, one of the things that happened to us, I was Episcopalian before this, and we pretty much dragged our kids to church, made them go almost every Sunday. And when my daughter got to be about 12, and she was struggling with, what her spirituality was, and she was voicing kind of what she was thinking.
Yeah.
And this young married couple that was kind of doing the youth group there just pretty much said, well, that's not what we believe here. And pretty much just like cranked it right down. And I don't think she ever kind of went back much after that.
Yeah.
She's a pretty spiritual person, but she attended a school that used to be a Quaker school, so she's been to some Quaker services here. She's just kind of been to a lot of different traditions and trying to kind of borrow from all of them. But I really think if I'd been lucky enough to raise our kids in this church or a church like this, it would have turned out differently for them, that they wouldn't have found, they wouldn't have gotten a message that, that's a wrong thought.
Yeah.
This is a pretty open. That's really not the phrase I'm looking for. I think this is sort of accepting of having, your own path and your own kind of thoughts about seeking.
Yeah.
I think when John was here, he was very candid and transparent about some of the things he'd been through, on his faith journey.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that kind of candor, that kind of openness, and I think it's a healthy thing.
It is a very healthy thing.
And to be able to hold a safe space to ask those deep, hard questions.
Yeah.
Again, I remember growing up that was kind of the one. You didn't ask any questions that would let on like you were having any kind of doubt.
Yeah.
And so that creates a whole host of things that I probably should go to therapy for. But this question of your self-identity, this, because you didn't have adults who you were leaning on for this spiritual guidance to say, oh, that's completely normal. That doesn't make sense to you right now.
It's okay that doesn't make sense, or it's okay that you don't believe what everybody else believes. It's okay if you're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Tom, how did you come to find your own spirituality? Kind of, did you grow up in the church? What did that look like for you? How'd you end up here?
Yeah, I think a really good question. I grew up Episcopalian at Good Shepherd, which I think is in a lot better space now. But at the time, it was a real, wasn't biblically oriented. It wasn't really spiritually oriented. It was sort of like you just kind of went there. It was almost a social thing. I can remember being a kid and we had a live nativity scene at Christmas, and I was like one of the little shepherd boys or something holding a stick, and I can remember all the adults were drunk.
Oh.
and I don't mind a drink at all. I mean, you'll find a lot of people attest to that, but there just wasn't much spiritual depth there at that time.
Yeah.
And so when I got old enough to quit going, I quit going.
Yeah.
And then when I was dating my wife, they'd grown up Baptist in a pretty straight by the book Baptist, narrow church, small town church. But they had just found their way to Episcopalianism. And they were kind of on fire with all this stuff that I learned for catechism, but never really took seriously.
Yeah.
And that really kind of got me thinking, like, there's really something here that I didn't know about. How I got here, we'd gotten, really involved in the former church and had been, I wasn't part of it, but there was a long, like a year search for a new rector. And they formed a committee of the laity, and they found this guy, and he looked like he was really going to be a great choice, and he was a really warm, a good human being. Had a little, not little, considerably more conservative views than typical Episcopalians, and somehow really attracted a really conservative group.
Okay.
I remember being in a Sunday school class and we were looking at the book of Romans. I thought, I look forward to this. It would be great.
Yeah.
But I remember we got in this debate. It was like the conservatives and the liberals. I remember one of them saying, we've just got too much tolerance in this country. And I remember thinking, gosh, I don't know where you draw the line. Like, you may be having trouble tolerating me right this minute. It was. I mean, he said it that seriously, and I think the guy was on the vestry at that point.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was a backlash and a big acrimonious split.
Yeah.
And at the time, my wife was the senior warden, which is like, I don't know what the analogy is here, but that's kind of like the main laity contact to the director. And somehow we went up, our whole group in our Sunday school got sort of tarred with the feather of being with the rector that people wanted to have ousted.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an acrimonious split.
Yeah.
We left and didn't want to go back.
Yeah.
I hated that. But I read a op-ed in the Statesman that John Elford wrote. And I thought, that is a really interesting guy. I wonder if he can preach as well as he writes.
Yeah.
So I came here a couple of times and listened to him, and I thought, that is a really strong preacher. So started coming, and some of my friends from my other church were kind of like, well, I'm not changing churches for a pastor. And I said, well, I am. So I just did it.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the lure to get you here. There's a lot else that's kept me here.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good.
I do. We Megan and I talked about. We didn't want to talk about COVID the whole time.
No.
Because, you've obviously played an integral role in the reopening task force. And
Absolutely.
kind of thoughtfully guiding that conversation.
I do have one question about that, though.
I do too.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, my question is more around, you mentioned that the science and kind of drew you to it, medicine and everything, and is one of the facets. But I'm so interested in, and we're not to get political or anything like that, but how people like you, who spent your life dedicated to this method of science, of the scientific method, and you test, and that this
research,
idea, research, and it's all grounded in testable things, and then to have people, and not anybody specifically. I mean, there's obviously one that we could name, but I don't even think it's just that person. It's a whole kind of, I won't say majority, but a very vocal minority that I certainly do have in my family a few that just kind of reject expertise in anything.
Yeah.
And has that been a difficult thing to deal with, or is it,
how
do you
have
cope?
you survived that? That's what I want.
Yeah, that would be very, very hard.
Great
for
question.
me.
I think it's reflective of a whole lot of things, but people reject what they don't want to hear.
Yeah, they do.
And I think there's a lot of politics that is kind of told people, if there's something you don't want to deal with, just don't.
Yeah.
Just say it's fake.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't really have a very strong science grounding.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
true.
never did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
But
That's true.
I think it's part of the educational system that people don't really don't understand how contagion works.
Yeah.
I see it as kind of like a battle. Like we're dealing with organisms that I want to say never sleep, but I actually looked into it, and bacteria actually do kind of sleep. They
How
have a rest phase.
interesting.
Yeah, because this was going to be something I was going to claim, and I want to make sure it's true. But viruses, of course, really are like little flash drives. They're not even alive. They don't sleep.
Yeah.
But they're just looking to plug into something and take over their machinery. Mm-hmm. So I look at it as a constant battle that we're always fighting.
Yeah.
I look at it as we're in a high entropy universe, and concentration of energy tends to want to dissipate.
Yeah.
And the only, to me, and this is probably not strictly true, but to me, the only place that energy doesn't dissipate is in life.
Yeah.
Life tends to concentrate energy over time. And I don't know how I got on that, but it's a high entropy universe. It's always a fight, always a fight.
Yeah.
And people like me just have to be up to the fight.
Yeah. Yeah. So my question, kind of related. I wonder, I have these doctors in my family and have been in conversation with them, kind of throughout the last couple of years about their struggles and all that kind of stuff. I wonder what you see as kind of the long-term impact of all this disinformation and this untrusting nature on your field as we go forward. Kind of, we hear about doctors quitting, we hear about nurses quitting, we hear about kind of the impact on the system. But I wonder kind of long-term how this will change the way doctors do medicine, the way they talk to people. Yeah.
I mean, as we talked about, I've been in an administrator role for a long time. And I think back when I was in practice, it was hard then. I think it would be that much harder now. I know nurses that went early in the pandemic from being heroes.
Yes.
Everybody said, "Oh, thanks for what you're doing," to being sort of the villains.
Absolutely.
And I have talked to people that have actually had to argue with patients that COVID is real.
Yes.
as they're having to intubate him to put him on a ventilator.
Yes.
And that's such a persistent kind of fixed delusion. That's all I know to call it. So I think there's a lot of pressure on them. In my current role, we're dealing a whole lot more with doctors that are in an outpatient setting that have, like regular clinics. And I can just say that they're really having a hard time. They're really stressed. So I've got my worries about them.
I bet you do.
It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see some transformation. I think the telemedicine's been a good thing.
Absolutely.
And I think almost everybody's adapted to it. I think that's going to be here to stay.
Yeah.
And there's other great advances still happening all the time. I just think it's hard to be in primary care.
Absolutely.
I'd have never made the decision that I made then now.
Yeah.
But it's turned out okay.
Yeah, that's helpful. Okay, now to your fun questions. Go ahead. Carry on.
Well, it's piggybacking on the question you usually ask, or hobbies and stuff. You obviously music is a big.
Ranching.
Yeah.
Something, or at least hanging out in the country anyway.
Do you? Is there any bands that you're listening to right now? Any TV shows you're streaming? Movies you're watching?
As far as streaming, we really got into Reservation Dogs. I'm looking for that to come out.
Yeah.
I just love that series. It was so quirky.
I've seen a little bit of it.
Yeah,
and
Psycho Waititi.
And the Indian warrior that kept appearing to him as a spirit, And I looked that guy up too. He's a comedian.
Yeah.
He works with a bunch of other guys called the 1491 Project. Year before Columbus got here. That guy's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a great show, well written, that we've gotten into. My daughter has gotten us into this British woman, Philomena Kunk. I don't know if you've seen her.
Yeah, the new mockumentary.
Yeah, and she just shows up and asks questions. She's clueless. That's the role she plays. But she asks people, just really stupid questions. Like she had like an ancient historian that she asked. She said she was asking about Aristotle. Said I just love it when he said, "Dance like no one's watching." That's meant so much to me, And finally, the woman said, and she said, "So what do you think he meant by dance like?" And it makes the historian say, "Well, I really don't think he said that." and Philomena, this actress that plays Phil, just looks crushed. It was just looks crushed like that.
It's very like Christopher Guest.
Okay.
Yeah. Mighty Wind and Waiting for Good.
It's really out there. It's what I've been doing. I as far as things I listen to, I like music that I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
I think most people like to hear, songs that are very familiar to them.
Yeah.
And take them back to something. I like that too. But I really like stuff that's novel to me. So I've been listening to a radio station online out of New Orleans, just like a lot of New Orleans R&B and New Orleans old jazz and new jazz. And it's a really good station. I listen to Co-op here in town a fair amount. Some of their shows are great. Some of them are, I've got to find something else to listen to. I mean, it's all volunteer stuff, so it's very variable. But I really love that a lot. The people that have died recently, like Jeff Beck, I went back and really listened to him a lot. Because I was lucky enough to hear him a couple of times. And of course, David Crosby. Same thing. I kind of went down the rabbit hole listening to David Crosby again. And even listened to some stuff I hadn't heard, like his stuff from like 2019 that he was still doing.
He was a great musician.
Yeah, he was.
Trombone Shorty, have you come across?
I love him. I've seen him live a couple times.
So I lived in New Orleans for a couple of years.
Did you? Good call.
And
I really like that guy.
He's so good. We can cut this, but it was St. Patrick's Day, and Ashley lived on Magazine and 3rd, and I lived down the street on Magazine and St. Andrew.
So y'all met in New Orleans?
No, we actually met in high school.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
Yeah, moved out there
Awesome.
after college. But we're playing. They closed down the street. We lived in the Irish Channel area, and they Rebirth Brass Band is playing on the porch, Ashley's front porch. It's just like, and Trombone Shorty comes up and he's playing. They're playing, and I mean, it is just phenomenal. And everybody's dancing, and we're all having a good time. And I've got a beer in my hand. Guy next to me has got a beer in his hand, and he keeps bumping into me, dancing like real, And I'm thinking, okay, like it's a chill environment, it's cool, but like this guy's in me. And so finally, like I was trying to kind of find a way, and I looked over, and it wasn't this guy. This poor guy is getting it from the guy next to him, and it's hitting me. And the guy next to him is John Goodman, and John Goodman is just. He's just dancing, listening to the Rebirth Brass Band, hitting this guy into me.
Yeah. He used to live in it's just right across the Pontchartrain, I want to say, from there. Anyway,
yeah.
He lives in that area.
Yeah. We ran into him a couple times, and we tried to. I ran an environmental outreach program there, so we would take kids out across Lake Pontchartrain, or and do canoe trips and stuff, and try to teach them about the wetlands and restoring them.
Awesome.
And so we ran into John Goodman coming out of a radio show. We were like, "Hey, we're going canoeing. Why don't you want to get in the van and we'll go canoeing?" He was like, "I'd love to, but."
Good call though.
Yeah,
it would have been great.
Yeah, we did get Mitch Landrew out.
I'd like that too.
I love him. He is good.
I love that.
And I'm sorry, this is the last story, but because you like music in New Orleans, it made me think of, and I've told Megan this before. The kids, it was a very what do they call it? There's a word for it, but freestyle rapping basically. Mm-hmm. And so we're out. We're canoeing in these marshes. I mean, there's nothing around. And I'm canoeing in the back. I'm kind of steering. There's a kid in the front. And there's a kid in the middle. And they said, "Mr. Chad, you got any freestyle rap?" And so I was like, sure. And I had him give me a beat. And so I just started talking. And I said, "Deep down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, way back up in the woods among the evergreens, there stood a log cabin made of..." And I sang the whole
Johnny
song.
Be Good.
Johnny Be Good. I sang the whole Johnny Be Good. And they had
never
heard of it.
I love that.
And they were like, "Mr. Chad's got game."
I love that.
There's still kids out there that think I wrote Johnny Be Good.
Man,
so.
that's incredible.
And see, I think you've hit on something really key there. You talked about old folk music.
Yeah.
One of the things we do with Wild Margot is find songs that are so old that nobody knows where that came from.
Yeah.
So if they hear it from us, they think maybe we wrote it.
Yeah. Oh, and they latch on. And it's even if they go back and hear eventually the original, you're the version that introduced it. That's the version they've come to know and love.
Yeah.
I think that happens all the time.
That's amazing.
Tricks on
That's
them.
amazing.
But
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, thank you, Dr. Caven, for coming and joining us. It was so good to chat with you and hear about your stories. And I still want to go to the ranch. You invite me anytime. I'm ready to be there.
Get y'all out there.
I would love to go.
That'd be awesome.
Name a time.
That'd be awesome.
Spring is a great time out there.
I bet it is. I bet there's some bluebonnets out there.
And we got some serious bluebonnets.
Yeah.
And I got this little vehicle. It'll seat up to 6.
Nice.
It's called a mule, and it basically just goes anywhere.
Yeah.
It just goes anywhere.
I love it.
That's awesome.
I'll leave you with one thing, though, that really has impressed me about this place. It came, I've been doing, on occasion, I'm not an every week, but Open Door Ministry and Fig Leaf.
Yeah.
Just trying to help out, particularly when they're really behind.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, Pastor John kind of wove this into a sermon. Mm-hmm. And it felt like when he said it, it sort of perplexed and kind of, he didn't know what to make of it. But it's really stuck with me. I think it's a really beautiful sentiment. He said he was at Open Door one time, and one of the homeless guys came up to him and said, "Preacher, I say a prayer every day, same prayer. I say, 'Jesus, I don't believe in you, but help me.' And he does."
There you go.
Don't you love that?
I love it.
But I think that really typifies this place.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of a faith so strong that it manifests Christ in this world,
Yeah.
Even for people that don't necessarily, stronger than disbelief.
Yeah.
That, people
That is
feel it in their life, even if they don't quite agree with that's real.
They feel the acceptance enough to continue to come back, even if they don't know exactly what they believe, and that's really powerful.
And I think that's a powerful message to me.
It is. It absolutely is.
Cool.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Dr. Caven, we appreciate your stories and your music, and we are just so glad to have you join us today for our fun.
What do you got going on the rest of the week, Megan?
Rest of the week, there's a game on Sunday. I know you don't care about my game because your team is not in it, but my team is in it, and I continue to be excited about it. And I'm going to go to a game night tonight with some friends, and I'm going to get ready for that big game on Sunday. So I'm going to have a Super Bowl party for the college kids.
Again, I'm cheering for you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Eagles is my team.
I gave Heather a couple of T-shirts to wear that were Chiefs so that she could cheer on my team as well.
I can't go that
slowly
far,
taking over the church with my fandom. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
What about you? Anything big you're doing the rest of the week? Finishing up the studio?
Yeah, we're going to come in here tomorrow and do some gaffer tape, mark some spots. But it's Olivia's birthday.
Yes.
Olivia tomorrow.
Happy birthday, Olivia.
Yeah, and we're
10?
going
11?
11. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
I know. And so she's requested that we eat Buddy's Burgers.
Okay.
For dinner tomorrow.
Okay.
And watch Les Mis. Now she's intrigued. So
does she know how depressing that movie is?
I'm like, I don't.
It's not very uplifting.
Did you just watch this? Is it French Revolution? I don't know. And then we're going roller skating.
Great.
So
great.
So
that's exciting. That's awesome. That's awesome.
All right. Well, this was a good one.
It was a good one. I love it.
2 in a row.
2 in a row that are good. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of PEEPS of the UUMC. I mean, we're just going to keep on.
Yeah, the next one's going to be bad.
Yeah, well, probably.
No, it's not. It's Sandy White. It's
absolutely.
Gonna
be great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I worked with Sandy.
Yeah.
Previously.
Really?
Yeah, she was an attorney for Seton.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
that. Connections everywhere.
Yeah.
I love it.
I found my way to the legal department a lot over there.